Sayase is cute. I never even considered it. Yeah, she is kind of cute. What am I thinking? She's my friend. Stop.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to another Dandadan review and analysis brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends.
Welcome to the channel. We're going to have some fun because it's Dandadan. Like, we're here for the fun, kooky craziness. Exactly. Like, we're here for the laughs. We're here for the awkward relationship moments. We're here for the existential crises and horrifying ghosts and aliens and all that. And it's a good time.
Yeah, and this episode's got quite a bit going on in it. Even though the events of this episode are fairly straightforward, there is a lot happening than just what's on the surface level. And that's one of the things that makes this episode just so much fun. So, really quick, just a brief review of the events of this episode. Okaron has got to find his balls. His balls are coated in some weird magical gold filament, and Turbo Granny has lost them somewhere, and she is brought along by Okaron and Momo to try to find them, and she's not really helping out at all. And unfortunately, where they should have really been able to find a ball pretty easily, the unfortunate thing is that it dropped onto one of their classmates' head. And that classmate happens to be the pink-haired Aira, the girl from earlier who was teasing Okaron. And now, blessed with the power of Okaron's ball, she is able to see spiritual things. She's able to see ghosts and the likes. And she can also see Momo's psychic powers. And so she believes that Momo is a demon. She's working together with her friends to exorcise the power out of Momo, or straight up destroy her if necessary. But at the same time, she's seeing this weird woman in reddish pink running around, following her. She thinks that this woman is Momo's familiar, but it turns out to be a ghost that is stalking her. And the events of the episode ultimately come to a head as Momo and Okaron, working together with Turbo Granny, who has snuck into Okaron's backpack. I love that. They're trying to find where the ball might be on campus. Turbo Granny is noticing that something is really strange and tries to push Okaron towards confronting Aira, as Aira manages to isolate Momo for her friends then to jump her, so that way they can then proceed with the ritual, only for everyone to get jumped by the Red Silky, who wishes for Aira to call her mommy. However, that doesn't go over quite as well as the Red Silky would have liked, and when Okaron shows up to try to save the day, he's promptly swallowed. When Aira then begins standing up to the Silky decides, you've been a naughty girl, swallows her, and then proceeds to just wreck Momo, and is like, I will forgive you if you will call me mommy. Momo refuses, so she also goes down the gullet. And then Turbo Granny's all like, well, you're a big idiot, you little small fry, because you just swallowed something you shouldn't have, a lighter. And the lighter gets turned on, and the Red Silky gets blasted from within and is forced to vomit out the teenagers, setting up the next episode.
Oh, man. I like that we're adding more characters to this insanity. It specifically Ida. Ida. I freaking love Ida, man. And it's not. It's an unhealthy obsession, but there's a specificity here. I'm not letting loose when I say that. I love Ida as a character because I hate her freaking guts. I just like, if I ever met somebody that self-absorbed and entitled, like, that would be a nightmare to my social anxiety-ridden self. I just couldn't get along with somebody like that. I really can't imagine getting along with somebody like that. And so, like, something inside me just hates her guts, like loathes her guts entirely. This is like watching the Wicked like play, and there's an entire song in the Wicked play about the Green Witch and the Good Witch like just singing their hearts out about how they loathe the other person, and it's just like it's that same kind of loathe. Okay, but the thing is, it's such an abrupt character. Like, we're looking at this full-on Karen, like straight from the start, and she's almost like a single-minded trope. And you don't expect that in this story so far. You really don't expect that in this story so far, just because we've had these really well fleshed out characters going through some really insane stuff that's forced them to grow very quickly. And this is why I love this character, because like, even though I loathe her, the story's gonna kick her ass. And she's going to have to change out of that. And I'm like, I'm excited to see this happen.
And I was sharing this with you before we started recording. I'll share it here again. This might be a bit of a hot take, but if Aira had been introduced before Momo, she would be the main character of this story. She has so many of the hallmarks of your stereotypical shonen protagonist. And I know people are going to be like, no, not at all. But if you take her base attitude and her base actions and everything, she is uncomfortably close to a lot of your probably favorite shonen protagonists. Even some of the more recent ones, like Yuji from Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, Yuji actually has a little bit more like kindness to him, but they actually display a lot of similar qualities and traits and excitability.
Well,
yes,
it creates a good counterpoint between the two female characters. I mean, and I hope as the story goes, we actually have solid girl friendship involved, because those are few and far between, and this is a popular enough show. It would be nice to have something to show Western audiences, but that's a different topic entirely, and that's more something along Camille's field of things. You get the idea.
Yeah,
but still,
though it is something that we should talk about a whole lot more, and to at least get like some good girl friendships going on. If you're looking for that in an anime, go watch Kimi wa Maido-sama, because that is core to the story. And not only has one girl friendship already been set up and is being executed, but another one has just got slightly introduced in the latest episode. So that's there. But yeah, obviously right now within Dandadan, there's definitely a rivalry between Momo and Aira. And I just have to throw this out there. So I did not realize at first time watching it that the book that Aira's friends got her was written in German. And
wait, really?
I thought it was just a Bible. And then looking back, I was like, wait a second, what on earth is that? And I misread it at first. When I finally realized it was German, I misread it. And so I was all like, this is a really interesting book. Finally going back, pausing it just the right time. This is a book about how to exorcise demons, how to get rid of those who dare to close. Man, suddenly I'm about to think in German. Schließen, to close the deal with the demon, how to get rid of them. And I was like, okay, that actually makes good sense, because I just thought that she's just going to have a Bible and then the fake cross. Why isn't this working? Well, you need the proper Bible, and you need the proper curse. You need the proper cross.
Yeah, it's kind of important. Oh man,
Yep.
I love that they're introducing this character and like immediately throwing her into the deep end, because she's almost willingly forcing herself into this world. I mean, she doesn't really realize it, but the fact that she's two-fisting Okaron's balls. She's like literally trying to beat Momo across the face at one point with Okaron's ball. And I'm just like, this show was made by children. Like absolute children.
It's a good thing that he can't feel what's being done with his balls, because you're like, oh!
I'm sorry, but this would become a completely different story at that point. Let's not go there.
One thing actually to kind of build off what you were saying previously, Scott, about how Ira's just like being thrown into the deep end. I once had a conversation with one of my best friends about like what kind of horror story would she want to find herself in, and she was all like, I never want to be in a Japanese horror story. I'm like, why not? And she's like, because the moment that you realize that you are in a Japanese horror story, it's too late. You already messed up and you're screwed. There's no way out of what you've just done. And I mean, there's plenty of different stories out there where there is a way out, but generally speaking, you're screwed. And so for Ira, who has wandered into this world of spirits and is going about thinking that she's the protagonist, that she's obviously the one in charge, she's going to save the world, that headstrongness is just pushing her right into the worst possible situation. She has no power, no control, and she only realizes it way too late. And that's a good element, and that's a good element of horror, and it's especially keeping in line with what one would expect of a good Japanese horror story. And I feel like for people who are more attuned to that the significance of the episode's ending, it resonates with them a whole lot more. Like, this is spooky.
Speaking of spooky, I really want to get into the Red Silky, like the antagonist of this episode, because she's so dark and creepy, but like in the best way possible. Because like if you look into like writing horror and writing like creepy stories like that, like a really big piece of advice, at least that I've heard, is that you take something like unassuming, cute, heartwarming, like something that like from your childhood basically, and then you twist it and you make it dark and horrifying and you release that on the world. I mean, like, that's kind of how the whole thing with It started. Like, clowns didn't used to be this scary freaking thing. Now they are. Like, so taking this like ballerina ghost and then twisting her desire for love and attention to the point where she's strangling people, to the point where she's stalking and obsessing over people. It's dark. It shakes you, and you don't expect it going into this episode, especially when it starts with a freaking like awkward scene between Momo and Okaron, because Okaron just realized Momo's cute and can't like even look her in the face. Like, you don't expect to see that horror happen. And like especially that like need for love and attention. And I've seen it done in a more real life example. If you ever watch the anime movie Tokyo Godfathers, and just a spoiler, you have the one character who's this mother whose daughter dies, and so she kidnaps a baby just to like feel like accomplished and everything. And that's kind of what starts the entire story in that movie, because like she panics, accidentally loses the baby, then you have 3 homeless people find the baby in the trash. Like, that kicks off the entire story. But like, this takes it to the next level, because at the same time though too, because you don't have the human element stopping it.
Yeah.
You're taking it further, because the human element, our limitations aren't there anymore. And so she can use her freaking long hair to strangle Momo. She can like just dance out of the way and then kick a person like in half, basically. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very dark, interesting take on this.
And how quickly she also just resorts to like eating people.
Yes, exactly.
And then torturing Momo to be like, call me mommy. I'm like, oh, that was dark.
Yep. And yeah, that's just kind of what I want to say on that. It's an interesting take, and I feel like it's the most, other than Turbo Granny herself, it's the most personable villain we've had in this story so far.
And thinking of Turbo Granny, and again, like I was thinking, like things being done creepy, like it's easy to see Turbo Granny as a kitty as being funny, because she is. It's really hilarious to have Turbo Granny going around, sneaking in people's backpacks, eating food, running her mouth about kids these days. It's definitely played up for humor. However, there are a couple of moments where if you're paying attention, you begin to realize that this isn't just, oh, hey, we've beaten the bad guy or the bad girl, and now we've befriended her, and Turbo Granny's our friend now. Turbo Granny is a chaos gremlin who would have no qualms of throwing Momo and Okaron under the bus, very literally, and getting rid of them. The one thing that prevents that is that she needs Okaron alive in order to keep her powers and get out of that cat body. And so long as he's alive, there is an incentive for her to not go as dark as she could, but it's there. And there's almost like this sense of towards the end of the episode that she's enjoying the Silky's pain because that's at least one person that she can hurt in this situation. She has no need to really be there other than the fact that she needs to make sure that Okaron's kept alive. And so like her smugness at what's happening and everything, her commentary is way more sinister when it's put into its proper context. Despite how cute and funny she's being throughout the episode, in that moment you're like, "Ooh, Turbo Granny is a real monster."
Mm-hmm.
And another monstrous element to this episode, and I skipped over this while doing the overview, is that Okaron finds out that there is a nasty rumor being spread about Momo, which causes him to freak out and transform. To which there's multiple layers to this as well, because for one thing, the Aira doing this whole slut shaming deal behind Momo's back is unfortunately par for the course with many teenagers in high school. If they feel threatened or if they feel they got to get rid of someone, one of the easiest ways is to spread a very nasty rumor and then let other people destroy that person's credibility or even go out and hurt them or take advantage of them. It's really, really sinister. And you have these jerk boys who decide to act on that rumor, which of course then ignites a fire within Okaron, which causes him to snap. He transforms. And the interesting thing that we have to remember is that they are not seeing him actually transform. We as the audience are. And so for these kids, there's a freaky moment where a small otaku is going up against a jockish kind of character and is like forcing him to his knees with sheer strength, with pure anger and a feeling that these kids can't explain, that it feels like they might just get killed. Like, that's pretty monstrous.
Mm-hmm. I think that like really plays into Okaron's character though, because like we've seen him jump into danger for Momo's sake, and in this case, he's doing it for his friend. Like, first and foremost, he's doing it for his friend, but the catch with that is he's got a fight or flight response going on at the moment. It's deep ingrained with him to transform to handle the situation at hand. And to do that to a high school kid who's being a jerk, it's overdoing it, but it's what Okaron like subconscious goes to first, because it's that fight or flight response. I mean, you get to see Okaron's like positive character. You get to see that Turbo Granny's powers are more serious than you think, because they can affect his everyday life in this way if he doesn't have any control over it, and he needs to get more control over it.
And honestly, just speaking psychologically, fight or flight is a natural response that most people have, but it's actually not necessarily the healthiest, because when you're confronted with danger, the right thing to do is to assess the situation and then make the right call, or at least the best call that you can with the information that you have available, which sometimes might mean flee, sometimes might mean fight, but usually when interacting with other people, communication is what is necessary. And we've seen that Okaron snaps and lashes out against Momo if he feels that she's provoking him. That was a hallmark of episode 5. And here we have him snapping at this classmate and reacting in a way like all of us are like, yeah, it's justified. don't you dare slut shame Momo. You're going to put that kid in his place. Like, I think that would be the natural response for any of us. However, it's not a healthy way to react in that situation. Better yet, find out who is spreading the rumor. You go and you confront them, you shut it down, and you try to let everyone know this is not the case, rather than put on the violence. Because when you do that, it then spreads all new kinds of rumors, or can even lead to greater consequences of violence later on down the line.
Well, either that or you just starve the rumor. You don't give it anything to feed on, and so you just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely more healthy ways to handle it. I mean, just thinking back to the fight or flight thing, up to this point, Momo has been that. Because, like, when it comes to fight or flight, yeah, that instant reaction, usually not the best reaction. But, like, you look at people that go skydiving or, like, these crazy risk takers, they have ways, like, built in from practice, from, like, working on it to break themselves out of that panic into a calmer mode. And up to that point, like I was saying before, it was Momo helped break him out of that fight or flight. And, like, or at least not break him out of it, but, like, focus it and help him so he doesn't panic over the situation. In this situation, he didn't have Momo there. So he's going to have to realize, oh, I need to figure out how to do this myself as well.
There's a real credit to Momo as a character, that even though she herself is a hothead, she has a lot of brains behind that. That it's not all just talking smack and getting lucky because the plot demands it so. Like we've seen, for instance, in the fight against Turbo Granny, that Momo can improvise and think on her feet rapidly. And there's other moments upcoming from the manga where we get to see even more great intelligence from Momo. Also, how she tricked the alien in episode 2, the sumo alien. Like that bespeaks a great amount of intellect on Momo's part, which Okaron needs in order to help him better understand the situation and use his own powers intelligently, which is what he's missing when he goes in to try to rescue Momo at the end of the episode and promptly ends up getting eaten.
I do see a point, though, where I want to see Okaron's, like, intelligence shine through, too, because, like, first episode, like, he was the expert when it came to, like, aliens and stuff, and I want to see that kind of shine through more, because, like, we've pretty much almost entirely been fighting against ghosts for the past little bit, and I know more aliens are coming down the road, but I want to see, like, the characters balance. Like, this is a relationship of equals, and so even though Okaron's not that capable of, like, making those decisions real quick in the middle of the battle, he's got a lot of, like, knowledge when it comes to this stuff. I think is going to make a big difference later on as well.
And that's going to be the struggle for the story going forward, or really for any story, whether it's where you have a duo, where you have a dynamic duo. It doesn't matter if they're platonic or romantic, or even if they're antagonistic towards each other. If you have a dynamic duo, they need to be balanced. They need to be balanced in how they can contribute to each other, how they support each other, how they're able to bounce off of each other, either intellectually or physically, or using their different capabilities. You need to have that balance. And so, yeah, we've been getting plenty of Momo, and we see how great Momo is. We will need to see Okaron really step up to the plate and not just be the knight in shining armor, but be the capable knight in shining armor.
Yeah, or even flip, like, he can be the damsel in distress, but, like, how many damsel in distresses have we seen that can kick butt at the same time recently? Like, you can have them play multiple roles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've already seen, I mean, the deal with Turbo Granny has been resolved, so he doesn't always have to rely on Momo to help him transform and become the person that he needs to be in order to fight against the supernatural. Now that he has that ability in himself, I think that's going to be the next big thing he has to do, is learning how to properly utilize those powers. So does that mean a training montage? Potentially. Though given what we got in the earlier episodes, if we are given another training montage, is probably going to be another cheeky wink at the audience, like, you thought you were getting a training arc, but no. Okaron is going to have to learn how to better utilize his powers and combine that with his knowledge of the occult. Well, and he's also himself a fairly intelligent guy. He's also pretty observant. He just jumps to the wrong conclusions. Well, with all that said, there's a lot to dig into with this particular episode. And if you've seen it and you think that there was something that we've missed, let us know in the comments, because this was an episode that deceptively had a whole lot to chew on. So we're excited for the next episode coming out very soon. We're pretty late with this review and analysis, but we wanted to make sure that we got that on out there, so we had our thoughts, our observations, and our writing advice and so forth on out there for you to check out. And if you're looking for other great things to check out, please watch our other videos for other anime, for books, for movies, shows, and so forth. And especially if you'd like to support us, please check out the links to the books that we have published. They are all in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this ridiculous, crazy adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.
Okini.